listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Keith. Keith, what's up, man?
What's up?
Not Michael, but we are excited. We as the production here. It's just me on this side of last night. Excited to have Keith join us on this week's episode. We are excusing Michael. He gets a day off every now and then. It's okay. Keith is joining us. We're going to talk baseball tonight. We have first series this weekend on the road versus number 6 North Carolina. We'll talk about the schedule. We'll talk about projected lineups and rotation and all that kind of stuff. There's a basketball game going on right now, so you'll have the patented second half live watch reaction. I'll interrupt randomly as JT Toppin whiffs at a block that he could have sent into the stands. It's okay. Texas Tech is tied 56 all, 15-20 left to go. Kerwin Walton, I think, is putting on a little bit of a second half run here. He's got 13 points on 5 of 8 shooting, and I believe most of those came in the last few minutes. Yeah, he's got 13 second half points. He's 5 of 6, 3 of 4 from beyond the arc in the second half.
That'll play.
Yeah, he's trying to do the little 9-point run all by himself that McMillan did a couple games ago. So basketball wise, really quickly, you went on the road, you lost to Arizona. You kind of felt it was maybe coming and due. You're not gonna you don't win every game, right? And you went on the road against a very hot Arizona team, and you played poorly, yet you still kept yourself respectable. I mean, silver linings here is that you lost to a team that was hot and a good team, not you took on somebody's best performance of the season. They've never looked that good, and they beat you, and they're like, well, they're trash, and they somehow beat you. No, they were good. They are good. And you did it on the road. Like, you were on the road for this game. So I'm sure we'll talk more about basketball. But again, when we have Keith, we must talk baseball.
we can talk about whatever. I don't care.
No, we're going to talk basketball too. But like I said, as the second half is going on, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll dive back in here and there. But baseball season starts. First pitch is Friday morning. Keith was telling me that the schedule is looking like it's being changed on the fly here. Expecting some weather there out in North Carolina. Potentially a doubleheader on Friday, but we'll see how that shakes out. Looks like lots of weather. But this past Friday, the tailgate dinner, I was not able to go. Keith, did you go?
I did go. Yes.
Usually a great time to see faces of the baseball team, to watch the season hype video or the highlight video from the previous season. I remember that was a good one a few years ago when you had that deep Omaha run. Probably more of a hype video this season going into this year than there was a highlight video, but I wasn't there. You'll have to tell me about it. And then also you get a pretty entertaining interview panel discussion between Gio and Coach Tadlock and maybe a couple of players, but it's typically the back and forth between Gio and Tadlock that is the main event there. So talk to us about Friday night at Kegel's.
Yeah. So hype video was short. It's good. Tech video always puts out great ones. We know that, but it was short. I don't think it was lack of anything. It just was a shorter, quick one. I think the story there. Well, first of all, you said see faces. There's a lot of those, and they're all brand new. Out of a 40-man roster, there's 25 new guys on the team. In fact, in the last cuts kind of coming into that night, really, one of the final guys was a guy that's been around. And so, I mean, it's kind of, you really like what they're bringing in. They obviously like this transfer class and the freshman when you're going to somebody that's been in your bullpen for a while and have to let him go. So there was a lot of new faces, but you mentioned the back and forth between Gio and Tadlock. There wasn't any of that. Gio introduced each class, which is always funny watching them try to get themselves in alphabetical order. And this Kegels thing is super laid back and very friendly and, kind of one big family of baseball fans. Probably not quite the crowd that they've had in years past. Not small by any means, but not as packed as it has been some years. But Tadlock took the mic and gave Gio the night off basically and just talked. And I've described Tim Tadlock's conversations, one-sided conversations when those happen. Like, when you watch a cartoon and like Donald Duck is flying around the world and it goes to the map and it's like just the planes kind of leaving the dotted line, like all over the globe in circles. Yeah. That's a Tim Tadlock when he gets on a roll. And that's really what it was. But some of the takeaways from that, and it's a little bit similar deal at the First Pitch Luncheon back in January too. He has been unequivocal in Omaha is the goal. No questions asked. And when kind of the first thing to talk about is the schedule, and he has gone to it multiple times. They built a schedule with fewer home games than we've had in the past. And they'll probably still add some midweeks as opportunities come up. He made that pretty clear. But they built a schedule back to that old school mentality that they've had of anybody, anywhere, anytime. And they're bearing that out, certainly opening weekend, like you said, against number 6 North Carolina. And there's a lot of pedigree there to talk about too. But they built an RPI building schedule. That's what they wanted. And so they're going to test themselves hard and fast. And basically what he said is no question for the committee when the time comes to sit around and talk about that, that Texas Tech is a postseason team. And their goal is to be hosting a regional and a super regional in Lubbock. And so they know that's the best path to Omaha, and that's what they're trying to do. So I liked hearing that. And then the rest of it was really a player by player conversation. I mean, he went through every guy he could see in front of him and talked about what they're bringing to the table and how good they are. And there was a lot of talk about pitchers, and a lot of the bullpen and just the stable of pitchers is deep. And he talked a lot about, hey, there may be guys that we don't see for the better part of a month, or that aren't starting for a month, that end up being a weekend starter, by the postseason. And so just kind of, and it felt like he was really talking to them. Go be a teammate and go be ready to play your role, whatever that role is right now. And so there was just a lot of that. And he was comfortable and candid and just kind of laid it all out there for their goals and who they are. One of my favorite takeaways that we've heard from players and him, and you kind of see it, and you see it throughout a season anytime, whether it's there or not, the chemistry on this team is really good. And they've all been talking about that. And the older guys are talking about how different it is chemistry wise from last year, which is a good thing, because I think it's a huge differentiator in any sport, but particularly in baseball, that they want to be around each other. They're working hard. They have common goals. They're friends. That's what you need. Small cliques in baseball is not great for a team. You got to have guys that are all together and rolling in the same direction.
Yeah. I think those that were paying attention to last year's team, especially when the offseason rolled around and some of the departures you saw, there were dots connected that maybe there was some chemistry issues. Mm-hmm. So that's good to hear that, like, even from the outset, that's been something that's at least feeling different, like that this team is presenting that differently. You touched on the RPI schedule. I think that was something that the RPI building schedule, something that fans have kind of complained about. And, because you do, you place, how you play in a very tough Big 12 schedule.
Right.
And then at the end of the year, like, man, was that enough? And now it's like, well, you've got opportunities even outside the Big 12 to go make a name for yourself. You start, this weekend, you got next weekend against another tournament team. They were in the regional finals up in Corvallis, if I remember correctly. And the Anteaters. I think it's in the release for this game that so many of your first games are against tournament teams from last season. I think it's like 8 of 10 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of one of those. You're not looking at this schedule and saying, "Did we really need that home series against Merrimack?"
Yeah.
Or whoever. You don't really have that, and you don't really have time for it anymore with the new Big 12 schedule. You get into it in a hurry. So go get yourself ready, play some tough opponents, and roll. You don't have time to have one of those throwaway weekends.
Yeah, and the other thing you talked about, well, when you mentioned the pitchers, you may not see some of that. Some of that is because you don't have a midweek this next week, and that's something that if anybody's been listening to Jamie and Choice's baseball podcast with Double T973, you may see guys that will fill a role as a starter, whether it's midweek or however, or work into the weekend. That will start the season coming out of the bullpen just to get innings, because if they were only did starter innings, like, you wouldn't see them for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's interesting to hear you say that Tadlock may be pushing some of the guys on the staff to move towards a weekend rotation, because it would appear you've got a number of guys set. At least you got 2 guys you think are pretty firm in a weekend starter, and USF transfer Jack Siebert, and then returner Mac Hewer. It could be guys like Zane Petty, new guys, Zach Crotchfeld, Lucas Perko, Jackson Burns would be a freshman, but obviously a guy that's made a name for himself up there. Tyler Boudreaux, and I listened by last name. Now I can't find him. Anyway, Will Jordan were the other guys that were listed as potential guys that could be coming out of the bullpen, but that may work into a starter role eventually. And then the other thing you touched on that I wanted to mention, with the roster cuts, getting down to 40 there for the last, the official roster, you ended up cutting 2 pitchers, from what I was able to track, going, having the roster updated and having this list and checking again this week. One would be Baylor transfer Steven Sepulveda, and then returning, or I hate to say that, had previously been on the team, in Brendan Lysick.
Right.
Both guys that are not on the roster now, didn't make it down to the 40-man limit, but which I think goes to tell you their confidence in the guys that they brought in that you haven't seen, and even in some of the young guys that the names that were cut made room for guys on this list that you haven't heard of, that maybe you will at the end of the season. So
yeah, that was my take, our take. Some of the other guys I talk with, that's exactly what we thought. You see those cuts at the end, and you know they're feeling good about what they've got and what they've brought in. Something else that Tadlock has talked about, kind of reading between the lines, the way he's saying thank you for some things to donors. I think there was a big step up for NIL in baseball from some donors, and so I think that has been a difference maker too, to put together this really good transfer class, along with the JUCO class, that kind of thing. I think that's been a big part of it, and freshmen. And there's guys that they've talked about, guys that they're saying, hey, this guy sent a letter to every major league team and said, "Don't draft me. I'm going to Texas Tech." I mean, there's those kinds of dudes that you brought in as freshmen, in addition to some really good transfers from some solid programs. So that's a big part of it. But yeah, there's a lot of confidence there. I'll say I didn't get to watch a whole lot of scrimmage ball, but I got to watch some,
Mhm.
and kind of hearing from the staff and things like that. I think it's fair to say, the bottom end of this team is much higher than the bottom end of this team has been the last couple seasons. And so you don't have, at least for this year, you don't have a, top 10 draft pick, but you got a team of a bunch of really good players and you're really deep, and I think that's what they're real. You can kind of tell they're excited about how deep they are, particularly with the arms.
Yeah, we talked about just the number of new faces. So many of them there are in the pitching side of this roster. Um, some of them, I mean, they're going to play key roles out in the field, like starters, like at first, second, and then two of your three outfield positions are probably going to be held down by new faces. And so I
Yep.
want to go through that really quickly. Again, based on write-ups that I've read from fall and into the spring, what this team may look like, at least defensively. Starting at catcher, not much of a surprise there, but Dylan Maxey should be your starter there, with Davis Rivers and Hudson Parker backing him up.
Yeah,
And then,
I think in particular, you're deep at catcher. I'm not going to break in on everything you say here, but catcher's deep. Maxey is comfortable. The bat continues to be strong, and he has, just there's pop in there and surprise in his body size. He's put on some thickness. Super easygoing, comfortable guy, just to kind of see out on the field. And I noticed just watching as it plays out, he's really doing a good job with young pitchers. He does a good job just kind of managing the infield and all the things that he needs to do at catcher. And I think that's what you need. I mean, you got to have that guy, that general out there. And I think he's pretty comfortable in that right now. You got some other options at catcher that are pretty stinking good as well. So that's really nice to have.
yeah, and then going around the infield, first and second base, they're going to be new guys. Robin Villanueva, transfer from Tennessee, or Peyton Schultz coming in from Cal. It seems like both of those guys are talented at the plate. Villanueva has been noted as being a considerable defensive upgrade than what you've had.
So he doesn't look like a baby giraffe on roller skates at first base. Is that what you're saying?
I guess not. I haven't seen him. And then Schultz or Schultz, I can't remember, but he's one of those guys that can play several different positions. And maybe a little bit of a surprise that he's not a starter, at least right now, because of just what he's able to do.
I think he's probably a strong DH candidate. I think they want him on the field, or they want his bat in the lineup at the very least right now.
Yeah, so I've heard DH is probably going to be between Schultz, Rivers, Boehm, maybe Hughes if he's not starting. But it looks like Logan Hughes will be starting in the outfield. But
yeah,
second base, newcomer Antonelli Sepeteri. Bravo played there over throughout the fall, but looks like he's been pushed out back into the outfield. And Schultz may also have a spot there, but it looks like Sepeteri is going to be your starter there. Again, described as your prototypical, like excuse me, your prototypical leadoff guy, has really high average, just puts the ball in play fast, and just like crazy average numbers. I think I saw like coming into his season at Texas Tech, he was hitting almost 400 at his last spot, which is just ridiculous.
And you mentioned Villanueva, or however you say it. He's from he transferred in from Tennessee. We didn't mention that.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to remember where Sabatier came from.
Was it JUCO? I think it
I
was judo.
believe.
Let me look at it real quick.
Yeah, Odessa College.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Pompey looks to be making the move out from short or second, wherever he played both last season, out to third. I've seen read that transition was a little rocky at first, but defensively it's kind of settled a little bit.
I watched him Saturday, and he looked good, and he had a couple of really nice, smooth, make it look easy kind of moments out there. So yeah, I think that the transition is settling in for sure.
Yeah, and he's definitely one of those guys that is catching a lot of attention early on as all Big 12 type, on the list somewhere. And then Tracer Lopez back there at shortstop, probably backed up by freshman Coleman Ryan. Didn't talk about Pompey's backup, but that would be probably Garrett Bame, who hit the portal, but then came back. So your infield, probably first base is a little bit more like not as set because I think I've heard that they're as comfortable with Villanueva as Schultz there, but Maxi behind the dish, Villanueva, Sabbateri, Pompey, and Lopez.
And I would say I'd mention on Coleman Ryan that backing up at short. I've seen him play a little bit of short too, like super talented, super athletic kid. He'll get his shot, he'll get his time, he'll have opportunities, I think. But an interesting note on him from the first press availability, Trendon Parrish made a comment about him and said that kid's going to be a first rounder before his time at Texas Tech is done. And so, yeah, like high praise, take it or leave it, coming from another player. But, these guys know the interesting thing about scrimmage time is all they're doing is facing each other, and so they start to figure each other out a lot. And for a guy to say that about a teammate, he's seeing something out of that guy, and he's probably he's throwing against him, too. So,
yeah. And I don't. Obviously, I would love Lopez to do well, but if there isn't the step up, like you would say, Coleman Ryan's got opportunity then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like
I think so.
There was some head scratching moments last season. Like, what are we doing? But
well, the competition's
it's
good.
easy to say that from the outside. I'll
Right.
be honest. Like I haven't played baseball like that since freshman year of high school.
I know they love Tracer because he's a dirtbag kind of guy. He's played a ton of baseball. Tadlock's talked about that. He's just super committed. Not that they're not all committed, but I mean, he's a dude that just wants to be playing baseball as much as possible. So yeah, I agree. You want to see some step up. You want to see a limiting of some mistakes. But the competition's good. It pushes these guys to be better, and you've lacked that. I mean, to be totally honest, the depth just wasn't there for guys to be pushing or be pushed from behind for their spots. And so this is a different situation now.
Yeah. And then out in the outfield, looks like 2 of your 3 starters will be new. Left field, likely Logan Hughes, transfer in from Stetson, I believe.
Yeah.
And then center field, I think, was one that was catching a lot of people's eyes just because of the opportunity that you had coming out of last season with just it felt like that was one of your defensive spots, well, and offensive, but one of the spots that you needed some upgrade there. So probably starting with Kyler Thompson, although I've heard great things about Kendall Johnson as well. Both of those guys are just supremely talented defensive guys. Really fast. Thompson may have the better bat right now. But also heard, Jamie was real high on you may see a lot of Johnson come in, defensive replacements towards the end of the games, just when you don't need the best batting lineup, you need to end a game.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that Thompson is bad defensively. It was just, there's just that much, that little bit of difference there.
Yeah.
And then Jace
Thompson, he's out of Galveston College, so a little bit more time under his belt. Johnson's a true freshman from Little Elm. little more height on Thompson, but yeah, both super athletic, fast for sure. Yeah, I mean, we talked about that as well. Just sitting there watching on Saturday, you could definitely see some late game defensive adjustment type things go on, based on situation and then, what the bat needs are one way or the other. And yeah, there are a bunch of options out there, and it goes back to some Omaha years, where you talk about the level of speed and athleticism in the outfield there should be a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, well, you talk about just that park in general, how big it is. You need speed to cover all that much grass out there, but
yeah, you got to. I mean, if you're going to build a team, build it to play at Schwab Field. I mean,
for sure. And then the other guy that I think a lot of people are excited about that you're just not sure where he may end up playing, Jay Souza, super talented young man, but missed all of fall. Although I think he was probably, if he wasn't cleared and ready, he was close, but they held him out maybe more preventatively just to make sure that he was completely healed and all that ready to go. So
it's the culture shock. That's really what he's dealing with. I'm just kidding. He's from Honolulu, so
yeah, that's right. I was like, I was thinking like South Texas somewhere, but that's not. Yeah, no, he's coming from Hawaii. Again, super talented. Just a little bit behind, having missed so much time, but listed basically anywhere in the outfield, just wherever there's an opportunity that may open up. And then right field, your last position. Looks like Damian Bravo is going to make the switch from left to right, and not play in the infield, or at least not start there, but take out that right field spot, and then potentially backed up by Ryan Jones. Jay Souza listed there as well. He's listed at all three outfield spots from when I read, but it looks like it'll be Bravo there and right. And then just for fun, Choice pushed Jamie to pencil in a lineup here going into game one, and he's like, well, if I was going to push the Tim Tadlock buttons, and because we know he likes to tinker a little bit, especially early on, but he said going into this weekend, from what we've seen in these last scrimmages and throughout the spring, probably going to have lead off with Sabateri, who would be starting at second, Thompson there batting second, at a playing center, Bravo right field, Rivers DH would give you a left-handed bat there, Pompey at third batting fifth, Hughes another left-handed bat, sixth and left field, Villanueva first base, but he also said it could just as easily be Schultz there, Maxey at catcher at 8, and then Lopez batting 9, which is interesting that he's batted 9 and 1 before, and it's one of those positions that, like, if you can have that swing guy that can really turn the lineup over and get it going, it's like there's not really that much of a drop off. That's fantastic. He talked about his approach a little bit differently. He may not be swinging for power as much, but it's hard to look at that lineup and say there's going to be like a lull, or there's not a guy that you're concerned about doing something up at the plate, whether it's get on base or be able to apply some pressure to the defense with his speed, or just the power in the bat. Because you go from Bravo at 3 to Maxey at 8, all those guys can just mash. Mm-hmm. And then you get Lopez, Sabateri, Thompson. When they put the ball in play, they're making things happen on the bases. So I'm a baseball guy. I'm ready to go. I'm super excited. I don't love competition wise starting off this way, but it's like, what, like if you're gonna make, try to make a name for yourself, like you can't be scared of competition. So you just go for it. So that's what's on deck for this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, although the weather depending that may change.
Yeah, let me mention that real quick. we sitting in the stands. I'm opening my scorebook at the moment. By the way, this is my.
I was going to ask you about it.
This means the season is here. You know,
I was like out of the mailer package and everything.
Yeah. We were looking at the weather Saturday. Lots of rain this weekend. Immediately, we were like, "Yeah, get ready for a Friday doubleheader." I heard earlier that ESPN has that game listed at 11 a.m. Central at this point. So I know nothing official about that yet, but that's what we're kind of seeing on ESPN. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a doubleheader Friday. And then I heard kind of through the grapevine that they actually talked about trying to move that series to Lubbock because of that weather and everything, but just couldn't make it all work logistics wise. But you're not just testing yourself against the number 6 team. I think it's important to remember that the ACC is extremely competitive from a baseball standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina's was a back-to-back College World Series runner-up in 6 and 7. They've had 12 College World Series appearances, including last year. Postseason team 36 times or something like that. So it's a team with a ton of pedigree and their own expectations and all those things. So, it's a tough test, and you're on the road with 25 guys that have never played with your squad before. So yeah, it's a tall test, but all you can do is go out there and play. You like
Mm-hmm.
the approach, and from what I saw Saturday, I think there's a team to be excited about. There's a lot of talent there, and the arms in particular will always be the question. I feel like you've been in a couple of years where you've needed or hoped that somebody would step up, grow up, and kind of save the day. And I don't think you're in that spot right now. I think you've got a whole squad of guys that can absolutely go out there and compete at the level you want them to. And so now it's just kind of putting the pieces together and seeing what it looks like. And of course, knock on wood, staying healthy.
So you're saying we'll see less Fire Gardner stuff this year, yeah?
That'd be great. Oh, we didn't talk about all the staff changes too. The paid staff changes. Did a couple of those happen.
Do you want to fill us in? I don't have that pulled up right now.
Yeah. So kind of to go back a little bit, if you remember, Goot was the volunteer assistant, and then the NCAA finally approved another paid assistant for baseball. And so you had a guy named Joe Hughes. Joe has been with the staff forever, most of their tenure. Played at baseball at OU back in the day. He became the third assistant coach, and Goot became the director of operations for baseball. So, they do from schedule building to travel, logistics, dealing with kids, just everything. You need a ball signed, that's the guy you ask. They do it all. And after a season, Joe stepped away, and he's got 3 young girls, really good guy. And I think that was part of it, not to speak for him, but just a young family. And so Goot has stepped into that paid assistant role. And so he is a full assistant coach now. And then, familiar and as a fan favorite name coming back now to be the director of ops, Nolan Hester's back with the program in that role, which I think is a great hire, really good fit. And he's a really good kid and super smart guy. If you've never gotten to talk to him, and easy to get along with, and just everything you saw on the field, that's exactly who he is. So easygoing, and I think doing a really good job already. So that's exciting to see. Maybe they're settled in now and kind of maybe the changes are done. This has been one of the most consistent staffs in college baseball, in this Tadlock era. And so glad to get a change behind you and kind of back into the rhythm, because I think the consistency really does matter for the program.
Yeah. So you've got J. Bob, Matt Gardner, Eric Gutierrez listed as your assistant coaches, Ray Hayward as a special assistant. You mentioned Nolan Hester as the director of ops there. Are we going to see Goot and J. Bob as your first and third base coaches, or is Todd going to get out there too?
One other thing to mention. Sorry, I'm not answering your question on that. I don't know. I'll say in the limited scrimmage I've seen, it was Tadlock at third, and J. Bob kind of at first, but scrimmages are hard. I don't know if that's how it's going to go or not. But the big change, and it doesn't matter this weekend, but it will next weekend against UC Irvine. The Red Raiders have switched dugouts, and so they'll now be playing out of the third base dugout. Yeah, Um, Coach Tadlock told everybody that Friday night. And really, one of the big reasons for that is because of the new facility and just the access to their cages and the facility itself and being right there to walk in, bathroom, all that kind of stuff. It was just logistically better. And I think that he was excited about that and saying thank you for the building as it is. And then also announcing, a change to the third base dugout. So I also think when it's cold, they'll have the sun for the longest. So maybe that's part of it. And let's not pretend they're not just a little stitious; they are superstitious. So maybe there's a changing of the juju look going on there too. I don't know.
Do you? I mean, this would be just like off the top of your head, memory wise. But do you know, has Texas Tech played out of that third base dugout? Like outside of having to switch on like a regional weekend, like when the last time they held third base dugout as the home side?
I don't think they don't normally have to switch on a regional. I don't think.
Or the
If
super
they,
regional?
I mean, if the visiting team wants to make them, I guess they can. But I don't recall that happening. That dugout was used in the Spencer era, and I don't know if Gus could correct me. I don't know if all the way back in the Larry Hayes era they were in the first base dugout or not. But I do know that Larry, for the most part, I think used first base. So I always assumed the change after Spencer was Tim just kind of going back to what Texas Tech had always done, in his time. But I also think that there was a discipline issue sometimes in the Spencer era. The team was not particularly disciplined. And so you didn't want the guys with access to their building and kind of wandering off during games or getting distracted. I think that was a little bit of it too. And so, hey, we'll just go over here where that's not really an option. But so yes, they did play there for several years that I know of. But yeah, making the switch, and that also means a bullpen switch as well.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it was. It wasn't like, my memory says there was like one weird like Saturday regional game where you flipped.
Good. Yeah.
Or maybe it was just like Texas Tech was the away team, but you stayed in the same dugout. So maybe it was more like as the host, which doesn't sound right at all, but I don't know. I'm going back and forth here. It like Sam Houston State, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I remember this. I remember those games, but yeah, it didn't stick in my mind if they swapped. Yeah. But definitely during the Spencer era that they were
okay.
Open. Yeah.
Just because we've been talking about basketball or baseball for so long, Tech just tied it 83. Chance McMillan and one opportunity at the line. 84-83 now, 152 to go.
One thing about basketball, the remaining schedule for Tech among the top tier Big 12 teams, that remaining schedule for Tech is pretty favorable. I mean, as favorable as you can get in a really tough conference. So, I
think
you have a path,
Now that you've gone to Houston and gone to Arizona, and you look up like your toughest road game now, like, okay, it's going to Kansas, right? Like that's not easy, but it's like,
right.
Especially seeing that they aren't the typical Kansas team that just obliterates everybody this season. You're like, man, like, yes, it's difficult to go up to Allen Fieldhouse. And wait.
Yeah.
Is it Allen Fieldhouse?
Yeah.
Fall Allen? Oh, gosh. So far out of my mind. That is just like
the place the scoreboards fall down.
Yeah. Apparently, supposedly, like most of that arena is just bleachers. It's like you couldn't like spring for some chairbacks.
I've heard. I have not been to a game there, and I've heard that the environment's awesome. But for people that just kind of walk in expecting this like shrine of basketball, it's a little bit of a letdown from just the state of the facility and how old and all that kind of stuff.
And also like afternoon games with the sun coming through the windows too can be a little disorienting.
Yeah, Jerry Jones is gonna buy it.
Can we just have him just? I I was wearing so I've been wearing my Rangers hat a lot lately. One because it's baseball season. I mean, pitchers and catchers reported today, but also like I explained it to my department. It's like that's the one Metroplex sports team that hasn't actively tried to disenfranchise all of its fans. Um,
Yeah.
Nico Harrison still being employed is just it's a miracle for him. Jerry Jones will never let go of the Cowboys as long as he's alive, or maybe as long as he and his kids are alive. Just tanking like unintentionally and just but doing it poorly too. Like you had an opportunity to really do something for your team this year, but you were too good to lose the games. And then the Mavericks doing what they did. It really also helps that the Rangers won a World Series. So
yeah, it's not bad. I mean,
it's
I just have one
fantastic.
thing to say about the Mavericks, and Michael will appreciate it, but it's just go Spurs go. So
Yeah,
for the one professional sport I care the least about. There you go.
Yeah, when that trade happened, he had it in the notes. It's like as a Spurs fan, are you okay? I was like, no, this is well. I mean, it made no sense. It made less sense the more he opened his mouth and talked about it. And just how I mean, obviously you probably have to like allow your leadership, your GM to have some autonomy. It was like he probably lost that privilege now. And then like it
Wow.
wasn't
So
his his fault, but pour salt in the wound. Anthony Davis' first game, he leaves early because of an injury. So
yeah, shocker. Breaking news. Since we're talking about Texas sports, also, I mean, screw the Astros, but um, Alex Bregman going to the Yankees, or excuse me, to the Red
Red
Sox,
Sox, yeah.
$3-year, $120 million deal.
Oh man, sucks to suck. Poverty program down there can't pay their players. I say that
man.
just I can't stand the Astros, but that's because they like they were bad for like a stretch that I was paying attention, and then got to be really really good. And I was like, golly, this sucks. And then of course they were in your division. And anyways, I have a good friend that's an Astros fan. So in that ALCS a couple years ago, it was some real fun in the text thread there.
Right.
Super fascinating series that like the road team won every game. Anyways,
Yes.
game is tied 17 seconds, 88. I don't defense is non-existent apparently tonight. Both teams almost hitting 90 here.
I'm scrolling down the baseball roster right now, and we can talk about other sports too. But Robin Villanueva, I forgot to mention, part of the Canadian invasion. He's from Gatineau, Quebec. Definitely speaks like a French Canadian, and he's just not like a dynamic speaker, kind of a very slow, methodical, heavy accent guy. And that was a point of conversation at the tailgate dinner. Was the first Gio mentioned it because Gio did interview 3 of them, and 2 of them were the Canadians, and it was the 2 Canadians and Mac, and he made a joke about the first phone call between Tadlock and Villanueva, what that must have been like, and Tadlock talked about that when he was speaking, and he said he had to. He said he had the first time they talked, he had to call his son Ben over and have Ben talk to the kid. He's like, I don't think he can understand what I'm saying.
That's awesome.
It was great.
Who's the other player out of Canada? I'm blanking on his name.
I'm blanking too.
It was in the release. I saw it. I read it tonight, but
right. It's I'm almost there. It is Tyler Boudreau. He's Boudreau's from Sylvan Lake, Alberta. And in my life connected to politics for my real job, I would say if you could give Canada a Texas, it is Alberta. And so it's very oil and gas, conservative, more rural, that kind of thing. So he fits right in, as far as that. But he does sound like a Canadian that you would imagine a Canadian sounded like. So
It's more of like your
little A, little
Yeah.
Midwest-ish. I can tell you the hecklers are excited. They have a reason to once again brush up and learn "O Canada" and celebrate these guys. So
I mean, yeah. When they're on your team, hopefully it'd be good things. But
right, yeah, bring a Canadian flag, celebrate. Pour some maple syrup on something, whatever.
You know, that made me think of that scene from Waterboy when the assistant coach is like pulling on his nipple rings.
Yeah, Farmer Fran, I think is the
But also doing that with some maple syrup. Golly, I don't know why that image popped in my head.
That's hilarious.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
All right, back-to-back timeouts here. 13 seconds to go. Still tied at 88. So we'll keep up on that. Are you sniffing your scorebook?
I mean, it's here. The season,
okay.
like before we came to record, I turned on Field of Dreams. Like baseball season's here. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, do you have your scorebook set up yet? You just opened it, so not set up, but it's there. I'm not as like I love keeping score. It's something that I've picked up the past few seasons. I don't order a new book every year. I'm on my second book. And because I'm inconsistent enough that like I can probably fill a book over 2 seasons, and it's just for Texas Tech. I don't use it for any other sports or any other teams.
I think my book is 100 pages. It's the Bob Carpenter fan book. I think it can do 100 games, and so a solid college season, we'll start to fill it up pretty much. So I mean, not enough that I can fit another season in it. So if I do every game, which I try to, so I'm a little bit obnoxious about it. So unless I get way, way, way behind, I'll go back and fill in a game that I missed.
On the inbounds, Arizona gets a pretty easy runner to take the lead, 90-88. But plus side, they only took 3 seconds off the clock, so you got 10 seconds, but you're down 2. Okay, so you've mentioned you've had not as much eyes on this team yet, but we've heard some things. You were at the tailgate dinner. We've heard the discussion that their eyes are set on being competitive to make it back to Omaha. What do you think this like a realistic projection ceiling is for this team? Like, is it really like it has to be like a deep run in the postseason, or is this like we just don't know yet?
I mean, I don't know, but obviously nobody's seen them play, other than each other. But to me, resources, pedigree, coaching staff, all the things, and then the level of talent on the team. I mean, you should be in a super regional, and there's a level of, hey, we hosted our own regional and now you're in a super regional. Now there's a level of luck that comes in and, who's your draw and some of that kind of stuff. But I mean, that should be your expectation year over year to be in a super, and not making the tournament is unacceptable. I think at this point in the program. And so, and playing on the road in the postseason is a tough path. So
I've seen it.
I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable with what we've seen over the last decade, plus to say, no, this is the expectation, and I think they have that expectation. So I think that's fair. So, I mean, is it a disappointment if you lose in a regional? I mean, a little bit, especially if it's at home, that's a tough end. So, but we'll see how they play out. But I really haven't gotten to watch a lot, but from the bats I've seen and the arms I've seen, and then listening to Tadlock talk, and he's not one to fake it. I'm excited about them. I mean, I think there's some dudes with some big league pitches on this team. There's some real velo in the bullpen. There's some experience. I mean, you got a lot of pitchers. That's one of the big things, and so there's a lot of options.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I was watching the game cast, and it first showed that time went final, that we missed the layup, and that it was 90-88 Arizona State. But then they updated it. Chance McMillan had the putback to tie it, 0.4 seconds. They're on the broadcast. You're going to go make sure that there was still time left when it left his fingers. But
So at the moment, we're looking
Oh,
at OT. most
overtime.
likely.
Yeah. What watching stat broadcast showed that the game went final and that Arizona State won because oh yeah, the ball left his hand with like 2.5 seconds left. Oh, they're probably trying to see when it left the bottom of the net.
Yeah, like how much is
It's under a second, so just don't let him heave it into the front court. Okay. Goodness. With the way that this schedule's written, how long do you think it'll take for us to know, like, okay, we have a pretty good idea about what this team is? Like, you've got this opening series on the road against North Carolina. You come back and play UC Irvine. You go to that tournament in Las Vegas with a bunch of really good teams, Texas included. Like,
yeah.
could you have a pretty good idea 2 weeks in? You're like, like this is going to be a solid team. Like, we've got a lot of work to do. Like,
Yeah, Vegas is the litmus test in my mind. I mean, I think North Carolina on the road now dealing with weather, opening weekend, we'll see what shakes out, and then your home opener, Irvine is a great program. The Anteaters have a lot of pedigree too on the West Coast, and have made noise in the past. But I think Vegas is a big test. At that point, it's not your first road trip. You're seeing 3 different teams. They're all Power 5 or Power 4. You've got a rivalry game in there in Texas on Saturday. I think that's the test. And then after that, start making some assumptions or freaking out.
well, I think as Tech fans are known to do, like probably way too soon we'll have an idea about what this team is, and then not have that be a little divided from actual reality. What we were talking about, this basketball team not being very good in November, early December, and now we're like, well, you run off the best start to Big 12 play. You're playing yourself into a run at the regular season conference title. Postseason projections here have you as potentially like a 3 seed. I mean, this is not what you were saying in November and December. So
right.
We were a little bit of some chicken little there in November, December, when we're like, man, this team's struggling. Yeah. Then following Las Vegas, you come home. You have that first midweek series, 2 games right now against UC San Diego, March 4th, and then Big 12 play starts the next weekend on the 14th of March. Which,
you skip. Don't forget Grand Canyon.
Right. So you've got Grand Canyon 7, 8, 9. You don't have a midweek that following week yet.
Right.
And then you got Big 12 play March 14th. So you're a month in, but it feels like very quickly because of the only the one midweek series you've got there, that you have very few games between the start of the season and Big 12 play. I mean, then you've got, New Mexico, Tarleton State, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Abilene Christian, UTRGV, like New Mexico State, like some of the teams you probably historically had played in February, early March are kind of sprinkled out throughout the season. But
right, I like the OU game in Frisco.
I actually liked it up in Amarillo too.
That ballpark's a bandbox. That's my struggle with that one. If you remember, I think it was the last time we played them. That game was like 18-9 or something ridiculous. I mean, it's just 14-9. It's just a small park, so it's an awesome facility. But yeah, I like the Frisco thing.
Yeah. And then, okay, so looking at the Big 12 schedule, when the football schedule came out, and I was going through it with my wife, she's like, what conference are we even in? Because just running off the teams is like, it's just so unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Right. So you're playing Houston. You get TCU in Lubbock this year. Kansas State, Cincinnati, Baylor at home, Arizona State, Arizona at home, which I've heard. Well, sorry, one of the Arizona schools is supposed to be really good this year at baseball, and maybe both. Who knows? West Virginia on the road, UCF at home, BYU in Provo. So it's like if you're looking for that historical feeling to Big 12, like you miss everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Baylor on here, but then everybody else is like new, unfamiliar territory, unfamiliar teams. You have not as much history with. Obviously, West Virginia has been in the conference for a while, as is TCU, but yeah, it's just the schedule this year, like the product of playing in this new Big 12, like this is what you're going to get. But any like initial impressions, like do you like how it sets up, how it flows, or like like are you missing playing Kansas and Oklahoma State?
But you're playing them,
You
right?
don't play Kansas or Oklahoma State this year.
I'm looking at the schedule 2025. Kansas, October 11th here.
Sorry,
Oklahoma
I'm talking
State.
about. I
Talking about baseball still.
I mentioned football just instead of like just how weird the schedule is, but I really meant I'm
Yes.
talking about the baseball schedule. Sorry, yes, I'm talking about the baseball schedule. You don't
All
play
good.
Kansas or Oklahoma State baseball this season.
Don't care about not playing Kansas. Just from a baseball competitiveness standpoint, doesn't do anything for you. No history there. Um, I do miss Oklahoma State because of the epic level of that series.
Mhm.
And when you have a good team, I will take any opportunity to baseball punch any Holiday in the face. So I don't like not having that opportunity, but hopefully you get them in the postseason and get to do that anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, I am excited about. I like the Houston series, kind of coming back around. You know, the old school. There's some old school rivalry there that players obviously won't know, but some fans will remember. And I'm really glad to have the Arizona State. There's baseball pedigree there that I think is good. So, I mean, where are your memories in Tech baseball over the last decade? You know, outside of postseason, and some of it is postseason. It's Oklahoma State, it's Texas, it's
Some
some
Oklahoma,
TCU,
yeah,
yeah,
TCU
some
for sure.
Oklahoma. So it's like some of it is out of your control. But yeah, if I'm missing anything, it's Oklahoma State and what that's been. But I want to be in a competitive spot for that. You know, not lopsided. So,
Yeah.
and I also don't ever want to play in Stillwater because I just can't handle listening to old man Holiday on the broadcast anymore. So
He
fine.
was yeah, he's special to listen to.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I couldn't tell you which game it was, but like essentially trying to like mind meld and give his son some coaching tips from the box. It's like he's not listening.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
yeah. Anyways, so I do think it's good that I mean obviously with the nature of just the teams you have in the conference, home and away, you get BYU in Provo this year. I think everybody was talking about how that setting is just so unique and all that kind of stuff. You finish up your regular season up there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, middle of May, following your finals, and then you come back the following week, Wednesday, to kick off the Big 12 tournament in Arlington. So, anything
have you
else?
noticed? You
Yeah,
said after finals. Have
I
you
believe.
noticed?
Yeah.
No, you don't have the 10-day finals break that you've had before.
Hmm.
That's something that, to my understanding, and I've heard Coach Tadlock mention it. You've tried to get away from that. I mean, it's just been a rough break. So you do break after UCF on May 9, 10, 11. You don't have a midweek, but there's no big fat long layoff from baseball. So just a bad time for that sport.
Yeah, I'm gonna look really quickly at the schedule or at the calendar because I don't know when finals are. May 13th would be the last day of finals. And that's probably like when the last tests are done.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to play through
playing
finals.
a series at home that weekend.
Yeah.
9, 10, 11.
So,
and you have a midweek on the 6th.
Yeah. It's definitely a different approach to the schedule.
Yes. And I think it's something that Coach Tadlock has, I don't know the ins and outs of how those things go, but lobbied for, asked the administration, the university administration to allow, because it's rough, I think, for them. I mean, you want kids to take their tests and all that stuff, but
yeah, for sure.
That's a long layoff from playing baseball in one of the most important times of your season.
Yeah, if you're hot, you want to stay hot. If you're not, you want some time to regroup and not have to worry about all the finals, making sure that the kids are studying and passing class and that kind of stuff. And also, hey, by the way, you get some time in the cage, you get some time in the field. Golly, it's still tied 96, 22 seconds to go in overtime. They just showed the Big 12 standings. Arizona State's like 14th. They are like 2-9 in Big 12 play and pushing you in overtime right now. About to score 100 points.
Are we talking about Arizona State or the Lady Raiders?
Arizona State basketball, men's basketball here.
I know, I'm just kidding. Not a good season for the Lady Raiders.
Going on the play-by-play here. Steal by Christian Anderson, missed layup. Block
by Kerwin Walton.
Oh my gosh!
But ASU got the rebound.
I'm
sorry. They blocked Kerwin.
I just watched the video of it. Kerwin Walton initially looked like he had just an easy layup, and then number 9, who's number 9? Phillips came flying in. It looked like out of nowhere to block it. 6 seconds. Is it tech ball?
Yes, 96 all.
Okay. That was a good steal at half court by Anderson.
No, I'm sorry. Arizona State ball. Tech personal foul.
Oh, no. Oh, he just barely blocked it before it went off the backboard. Otherwise, that would have been goaltending. Golly. Oh, yeah. So it's possession arrow in Texas Tech. Arizona State has the ball. Fantastic. Correct. Very quickly through 5 minutes of overtime here, scored 8 points. 6 seconds to go.
And Arizona State's on a 2:08 scoring drought. So,
yeah, but potentially with the ball with almost 7 seconds to go to win this game.
Yeah.
Golly, I obviously I'm not a basketball coach, but I have thoughts about why we don't dunk as much as I think we should. You're there, just push the ball through the hoop.
That was something I was saying a lot at the end of the Beard era. Make Texas Tech dunk again. You just
careful.
refused.
We're not a political podcast. Although I mean, we won't venture into that, but part of the what do we learn and my resolution update has to do with the Super Bowl and halftime show, and I'll just leave it there for now.
Okay. Sneak peek, little tease.
All right, 7.1 on the clock. Arizona State with the ball. If you were to bet anything, who would you say would be your third weekend starter, your Sunday starter? Because right now you've got Siebert going Friday, Heber. Wow.
Kerwin Walton stole it.
Hewer, Mac.
Yeah,
Mac going Saturday.
Mac's going Saturday. Oh yeah, and I needed to mention, and I'm pretty sure I'm talking about the right guy. Tadlock went on and on about your Friday starters change up, and got to look at that on Saturday, and it is legit. So big fella, Siebert, and had a really good feel for that pitch, and it is an out pitch for sure. And so, and he has a lot of innings under his belt as well. And so coming in from USF. So that's a guy I'm excited to see more of. But yeah, I would think that Hewer is. I thought he looked pretty ready, but I don't know squat. So, but that'd be where my money would go for your. Now, eventually, maybe they don't want him right now. Maybe they want other guys to get some innings. I also think Perko, coming out of Cal Baptist, he had a lot of innings and a lot of starts in his career, and he had a lot of decisions. Where you don't always get the win or the loss. He did, and so that's a guy that I know they like that he has innings under his belt and experience and some of that. So that may be a guy you see too. And they may just be kind of going matchup on day 3. The reason they haven't announced it yet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, your options there. Do you think Petty takes a starting role?
I think it comes. Yeah, I think there's definitely a potential.
Yeah. And if it's not him, then would it be like from guys like Crotchfield, Perko, Burns, like that group, or somebody else?
No, that's the group I would go to. Yeah. I think that Trendon Parrish they're not looking for him to be a starter. They're looking for him to be a late innings closer kind of guy. Tadlock said as much, but also talked about him doing anything you ask of him, so, but I think you're hopefully not getting yourself in a position that you need to do things like that. You can let guys develop into their roles. And then, don't forget, and I don't know if I don't think he's in the starting conversation at the moment, but with a good step forward, like Jacob Rogers, it's real. The stuff is real, if he can just get some things figured out.
Yeah, I was like, it didn't seem like the game was much in question, but when he was pitching in that Florida regional, I was like, man, like there are glimpses there. Like he was doing some things. And you're really, really excited about it. And then he wasn't able to really pull it all together last season.
Into double overtime now, tied at 98.
Into double over. Yeah, they did. Kurt Walton did steal it, but there were just maybe a second left when he gathered possession there about half court. Texas starts with the ball.
There's a dunk.
You must be ahead of me. Yeah.
I'm watching stat broadcast.
Yeah, stat broadcast has it 198. TV broadcast has it 98, 96.
Well, JT Toppin's about to dunk it. I'll put money on it.
Okay. We'll see if you're right.
Right.
Okay. Anything else baseball wise that we haven't touched on, or?
I don't think so. I mean, I wish I had like an in-depth scouting report of every dude. I don't. I have some of the things I've seen and heard from others. I really do. I know that I try to be high on this team and I try to get excited about it, and I'm just as disappointed in the outcome last season as anybody. But I really do think there's a team there to be excited about. I think it's one of those teams, and not that he has, but it's kind of something he does, that Ray Hayward will lean over and say like, "Hey, I think we might be pretty good." I think that this is one of those teams where you have a lot of depth and a lot of talent, and there may not be a superstar. There may be a couple growing into it, but that your floor of talent is much higher than it's been. And so you have a lot of options out there, which you need. I mean, you want that obviously just to be better, but you want that for Tadlock to do what he does well, and find the combination that works best and do the tinkering that he does, rather than having to just plug and play based on necessity, which I think you found yourself in that position some. So, and I also would say kudos to an old school baseball guy for leaning into the reality of where college sports are. Like, hey, if NIL needs to be the thing, and whatever it is, I mean, he's done that. So I think that says a lot, because there's, we've all seen coaches in various sports dig their heels in and say no, and they're generally not coaching anymore. So
I do remember hearing that or seeing that thought kind of floated around, that the game has passed him by type of sentiment, that like he's too old school to pick it up. And we saw guys like Dabo in football, or what's his name?
Gary Patterson.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the coach at Oklahoma State. Oh my gosh.
Mike Gundy?
Gundy was so opposed to it too. It's like
Right.
he was even talking about like how he just didn't understand how it worked and all that kind of stuff. It's like you can't be saying that, man. you
You know,
got
I look
things to
at
figure
Tech
out.
baseball, and like Larry Hayes was an old school coach, like classic, you know, cut your hair, no facial hair, like that kind of thing. Very strict rules, etc. One of the reasons guys like to come play for Tadlock is because that's not how it is. You know, go be yourself, don't do anything stupid, take care of your business, come play baseball, you know. And so I thought, I mean, obviously he's kind of an old school guy as a dude, but the way he has coached his team has been different, I think, from old school, you know, in some ways. And so I'm glad that there's a willingness there to. I mean, he wants to win. I mean,
Yeah.
the competitiveness is there, and so I think they had found their formula and type of recruiting and all those things that worked for them. Um, and post COVID, that formula changed. The world changed, you know, and that formula needed to change, and now they're putting it together again. Is what it looks like to me. You know, finding that new normal. And so maybe they're a year late. You know, I don't know, but um, it looks to me from this team and the way it's come together that's what they're doing now.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like you love to see it with we all, I think, I don't want to speak for everybody. I really like Tadlock, his approach, the way he has a team. Um, you know, like you look at a team like Tennessee, right? They won the title last year, but I think everybody that doesn't cheer for the Volunteers wants to punch their head coach in the face. Like they can't stand him.
100%.
But like,
100%. And that's a team, when we talk about expectations, as much as you spend on that team, you absolutely should win the national championship. You know, kind of the same thing with LSU a couple of years ago. Like, yeah, obviously, you know, your salary is equal to that of, you know, well, the Oakland A's are a bad example, but you know what I mean?
No, I got you. Yeah, I not because I'd be rooting for it. I'm interested to see what A&M does together with their roster, because they definitely went after it this year too.
They did. I wonder how what they're going to do when they realize that Gavin Cash is what Gavin Cash is.
And do they force him to get a new glove? I mean, he wore that Texas Marucci first base glove his entire time here.
Yep.
Sometimes with a piece of tape over the logo, sometimes not.
Oh, unis. I forgot to mention that. The unis look cool. The Adidas look really good in baseball. And
I've not seen that yet.
And I've only seen one up close, and they wore grays. So normally they practice and just like beat down old stuff. Like, you know, I remember Braxton Fulford, like his pants were ripped from his knee to the zipper, you know, on one. And it's like, hey, and you know, there's 8 patches on the back or whatever. It's just old practice stuff. But you don't have any of that anymore because you got new uniforms. So they were in grays on Saturday, and I'm sitting there first base side. I'm like, what? There's something on those, you know? And once I got closer, I realized immediately they have like flecks in them. So it's gray, but like kind of a black fleck that goes all through it. Not shiny or anything. And the numbers have some shine to them. They're just sharp looking. I think they look really good. So I know that doesn't matter at all, but I'm excited about them.
Well, I mean, you've been with taking the planes long enough that, you know, we are at heart a fashion blog over there.
That's right. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the basketball uniforms. I don't know if you saw them tonight. They were wearing their Adidas special tonight. From afar, like to see the general shape. There's a patch on the back, like, you know, on the back of their neck between their shoulder blades that looks a lot like the A&M logo until it like zooms in, and then it's like AI almost. It's like what I don't even know what that is. And then they've got like weird color patterns down like the ribs, and they're different on each side. So I was going to ask you what your thoughts were, but if you're not watching the game, then you haven't seen them yet. There are enough pieces about this uniform that I don't like. They're just bugging me. Like the colored squares and the shorts and the gray and the part checkerboard. I don't know. There's too much. At least it's not like the bright yellow that Arizona State wore, this weekend, but that's at least one of their colors. But all right, 125 to go. Texas Tech up 105-103. They are reviewing, I guess, who the ball went out on. It definitely went through the Arizona State player's hands. That should be Texas Tech ball. All right. So just a quick peek ahead to basketball. I don't want to get into like a full on preview with you here because it's just not. We're at an hour 15 already, and it's been too much fun talking about baseball. But at Oklahoma State, at TCU, your next two definitely winnable games, even on the road. Gallagher Iba, it could be just an empty dome there. TCU, oh gosh, they hosted. Who are they playing tonight? Cincinnati. No, I don't know, but like they were for sure. They were hosting Oklahoma State. That arena was also very empty. So if you're playing in Fort Worth, there will be people there, but that'll be United Supermarkets Arena East. You're projected to win both of those games. A bit of a bigger spread actually on the road in Stillwater, 78-67. If you follow Haslametrics, all that kind of stuff. They are the number 101 team. You are 9 as of putting the notes together. TCU 65, but you are also projected to win that one, 71-63. Again, looking at the schedule, looking ahead, you had mentioned like there's just not much on the basketball schedule, maybe because you've seen what you've been able to do up to this point.
Yeah.
But also like you've made your trip to Houston. You've made your trip to Arizona. You welcome Houston back once. You have to go to Kansas. But you're setting yourself up to be very competitive here at the end of your Big 12 schedule, going into the Big 12 tournament.
Hey, and I'm with what you said earlier. I mean, late fall, a struggle bus. Like I was not believing, and there was one, I don't remember the loss in particular, but I told some friends, like, I think they're putting some things together. There's positives in this game. And then obviously, you've done what you've done. So, I mean, tip of the cap to Grant McCasland. I mean, that's what you got to do for fans to start kind of believing in your process and getting, what you're going to put together. And I mean, it's been very impressed.
Yeah. And
particularly with adversity too.
Yeah. Cause you've had to play games and rotations with a different cast, because whether it was just their performance has been hindered, they've been out with injury, you've missed time from Toppin. Yeah. Ejection or just health with Toppin, D5. Elijah Hawkins has not been the same guy November to February. Like he's been so much better down the stretch. McMillan hitting shots, Kerwin Walton even coming back. Really just, this team is so much different than it was 2.5 months ago. Arizona State shooting free throws, hit the first one, 105-104. Texas Tech still
they missed the next one, I think. No, they missed the front.
They missed the first one, hit the second. Okay. Texas Tech currently without a field goal in the last 2.5 minutes. Oh, as I said that, JT Toppin dunks. So
yeah, baby.
I just needed to jinx it, I guess. And then a quick layup response by Arizona State. 107-106, 45 to go. Ooh, it was almost fouled from behind too, as Toppin went up. Just about 45 seconds to go. Arizona State has a second player foul out. Mason fouled out earlier. Phillips just hit his 5th foul. And he's now fouled out, 47 to go. Phillips had 15 points. Mason had, let's see. He had 16 points. They're still led by BJ Freeman 21. Oh, sorry, Adam Miller has 22. So many guys with double figures.
Toppin has
Obviously,
41.
What? Oh my gosh, I had not been paying attention. Yeah,
I just saw
D5 got
that.
26, Toppin with 41, 17 of 22,
41 and 15 boards for Toppin.
in 43 minutes. So, Texas Tech D5 splits the free throws there up to 47 to go, 107. Sorry, 108, 106. Yeah, because I've been talking to you and not had the audio on, completely missed the game that Toppin's been putting on. I do remember hearing the in-game interview early on on the baseline there. Gary Parrish was talking to the Arizona State head coach. He's like, "Man, JT Toppin is giving us problems," and that was like at the 12-minute.
As
timeout.
Toppin gets a steal with 33 seconds left.
Oh my gosh, let's go. Let's see. Oh, he's on him. He's on him. Oh, yeah, he just poked it, and then he picked it up off the court. Yes, sir. 33 seconds to go. Texas Tech up 108, 106.
2 steals, 2 blocks for Toppin.
41 points. And then
Arizona State fouls.
Arizona State
27
fouls.
seconds left.
2 more free throws coming. So this game's really going to slow down with how close it is with the time running out. Okay.
Soccer recruiting. Is that what you want to talk about?
No. I was going through and checking off things that we had talked about. Okay, so I want to talk about what did we learn really quickly and
Sure.
and get that through before the game ends. I don't know if you follow, you don't have to follow, but I've been having this New Year's resolution of just being drawn off sides less this year.
Okay. So you
and
stopped watching sports or
no, it's more like
do you have a smart TV that blocks everything the officials do?
No. I would miss so much things. Like what's happening? I have no context. What's going on?
Another steal by Toppin. 16 seconds left.
Golly.
Tech up 4.
One of the things that is just how quick I am to jump into the middle of some discussion online where it's like I don't have to inject myself here. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong or if I agree with them or not.
Is this a personal choice or did this
Yes.
come up in your review at work or something?
No. This is personal. This is not like a Spencer. You're being a little heated at
on the
weird
interwebs.
times. Yeah. No. It's not like that at all. I'm actually the guy in the office that I'm the calm and collected one of our group. And if you know me, that probably says a lot more about my department than anything else. Which is fine. We balance each other out nicely. Especially when we're talking about dealing with strikes, which we don't have here in Texas, but some of our system colleagues across Providence have to deal with that. They're like, I'd punch people. It's like, yeah, it's difficult to try to have good faith conversation with these people when they're lying in your face. Or yeah, I don't want to get into that. Anyways, so one of the things that presented itself was the halftime show, which I think was a little bit controversial, depending on your generation, and whether or not you were a fan of Kendrick Lamar's music, if you could listen, and if you were just aware of the things that happened outside of the performance, right? There were a lot of things that were brought into the performance that if you weren't
aware of the context,
then the performance itself was it's fine. It's not my music or whatever. Right. There were a lot of people that were quick to jump in and say that was the worst halftime show ever.
It's same people that have said that every halftime show since I've known them.
Because of the size of the audience of the Super Bowl, you're not going to have people that love it. The people that were defending the Kendrick Lamar halftime show were like, yeah, we had to deal with years of Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and Coldplay. I was like, okay, fair. It's not your brand of music. I get that.
Hey, Tech wins. Guns
look at that.
Ring the bells.
111, 106. golly. I hate that it went to double overtime, but to pull that out and win this one, it's good to get back because we'd hate for that game against Arizona to roll into 2.
Right.
So anyways, there was a lot of discourse on the halftime show.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the context of a lot of things, so I actually like I didn't seek it out, but I learned about a lot of it on Monday because of all the conversation, right? But there were so many different people that were just like jumping off and saying it was the worst, or you're stupid, you didn't understand it, like you need to wake up, blah blah blah. I read the Daily Stoic, and just it's a obviously it's a daily meditation book on the tenets of Stoicism. And oh, hello, camera shut down. 1 second. Wow. Give me just a second to fix this. Why is that screen not showing? Uh-oh. Well,
it wants you to say no or yes.
Right, but the touch screen on the camera itself, what I would do that in, is turned off.
I just want to touch it on my screen.
Give me a second. No. Yes. Okay, I'm back. We recorded longer than this. I've never had that happen, so it's not that. All right. Anyways, so the meditation.
You guys do put on some marathons.
It could be worse if you're fans of the Gauchos, sure. Which we are. Okay, so actually the reflection for Sunday says you don't have to have an opinion, and the quote is going back to Marcus Aurelius from his Meditations, his journal book. We have the power to hold on. We have the power to hold no opinion about a thing and to not let it upset our state of mind. For things have no natural power to shape our judgment. It says it is possible to hold no opinion about a negative thing. You just need to cultivate that power instead of wielding it accidentally. Especially when having an opinion is likely to make us aggravated. So it's like, how perfect was it to have that daily meditation reflection on a day where I could have been drawn off sides with all the discourse about Kendrick Lamar and his halftime show. And you probably saw all the comments like, I couldn't even understand the words, or rap music is crap, and blah blah blah. It's like I didn't
have to see that comment. I was saying that.
Yeah. Well, again, as a 35-year-old, it's like I've never felt older, because like the first part is
exactly,
like,
yeah.
I literally cannot understand the words he's saying. I don't listen to his music, so I'm like,
I was joking with my friends. I just started sending gifs. I'm like, the only thing I've caught out of this was he said John Stockton. That's what I know.
And I didn't get the Samuel Jackson interjections.
So, and I had a friend explain certain things to me, and I did not go down a TikTok rabbit hole to learn all the beefs. You know, like I understand some of it. It's not my deal. I know the guy's a really like brilliant entertainer. All the things he put in that show, it just wasn't entertaining to me. But like, also, as I told a friend, credit that you went out and did your show. They told him not to do any of those things, and he did all of them anyway. And I mean, you can just appeal to the lowest common denominator and just stack up a bunch of stars and everybody's happy, you know. But he went out and like did his thing. So like, respect to that. It's just, not my deal, you know. Or at least I don't know his music, so it's not.
Nope.
It didn't resonate. I didn't know what we were talking about. I didn't know the context, all that. So it's hyperbole is not my favorite. So to watch, you know, a 55-year-old white guy yelling, "This is the worst show of all time," and I'm like, well, you said that last year and the year before that, and you know, like, what show would you like? That's what I'm curious. Is it Creed? Can we do Creed again? Flying in.
But again, like you think about just how large and broad the audience of the Super Bowl is. Like it's bringing in so many people.
You can't please everybody. Yeah.
And if it was like somebody top of the charts, so like you would have pissed off half the people. Like this is this music sucks. Like
I
you have
think
people
it's
complaining about Taylor Swift or
I think it's interesting to think back, and I don't know if it's the world is different, music is different, like what, but it's like I remember Alan Jackson performing at the Super Bowl. Where were you when the world stopped turning? And stuff like that. So it's just it's a whole different idea at this point. So I mean, but I like your thing. I like your what have you learned?
yeah. Michael had a note here to talk about Wolf Brand chili hot dog sauce. So I'm excited to catch up with him about that.
I don't know if I've ever tasted the Wolf one. The Hormel, I'm out. But
As somebody that goes to a lot of baseball games, what's your favorite food at Rip Griffin Park?
I thought you were gonna say in general.
No. At Texas Tech home game, if you have a time to go eat there, one of the games,
I'll give you two.
Okay.
The quesadilla in the club is solid, and it's made fresh. It's good, and comes with the little containers of stuff. I think the best.
Subtle flex there too. I want to point out that like he's talking about a food that's not available to everybody. Go on.
The best value when I was sitting on the first base side for a long time, that the concession stand at that end by the track facility, they have a Frito pie down there.
Yes, sir.
It's probably the best value in the ballpark, and that thing is stacked up. You can get beans on it, and onions, and it's pulled pork or whatever, and it's at least a meal. Like, hey, I'm paying $10 for this, but there's a lot. It's a full Chinette plate. So I mean, if you want to eat, I go that. I'm also happy with 2 cheap hot dogs or whatever, but any ballpark, I'm usually looking for a Chicago dog. That's kind of my favorite thing, because you just don't get it anywhere else. But I also don't mind trying like the crazy like annual thing, like the Ranger stuff, the specialty things, that kind of thing. I don't necessarily want a hot dog that's the size of a baseball bat, but like, I mean,
the boomstick is not you.
I remember the boomstick. I mean, I split one time, but I'd like to. Yeah, I don't mind trying some stuff out. But yeah, that Frito pie is the move at Rip River Park, in my opinion.
Okay, because if you were going to bring that up, I was going to. I've talked about it before. I've had it maybe once or twice, but it was like memorable enough. However many years ago, it's like that was fantastic. It's more than just. Oh yeah.
And there's some tacos down there that are good too, and the sausage wrap is a pretty good. I mean, it's like a foot long or whatever, but like sausage, not just a hot dog. Or you could do like my friend Carter. One of our favorite stories about him is we're sitting in the stands and he is holding a fork. We're like, what do you have a fork for? And he pulled a gallon Ziploc bag of spaghetti out of his pants. So pocket spaghetti. You could go that route if you want.
Pocket. I would never thought to bring in pocket spaghetti. I brought in bags of seeds before and done that, but
yeah, bags of seeds is a must. Yeah, I'm not paying for that.
Do you have like a rotation of flavors, or you just have like a tried and true that you go to every time?
So well, this is more than you asked for, but I think I'm allergic to like MSG, and sometimes seeds will make my nose itch like crazy. And I think that's why.
Interesting.
And so I liked Biggs and the dill pickle and the ranch. And Biggs has like Hidden Valley Ranch, so they're just good. But I switched to Chinook seeds, and I haven't had a flavor of those yet that I don't like. Like they have like hatch. Oh, you'll hate these. They have hatch green chili. And,
I'm coming around.
Are you okay? But yeah, their seeds are good. Like there's just another level of quality to those.
Do you like where do you find Chinook seeds?
They have them at Market Street.
Okay.
Yeah, they have 2 or 3 flavors there.
I'm
usually ranch or pickle. That's kind of my 2 main. But to be honest, I've tried to. Such an old conversation. I've tried to cut back the last few years because of the sodium, and I'll get into a habit where I'm eating them. I mean, next thing I know, it's the fall and I'm eating them at my desk, and I've eaten 48 bags of sunflower seeds and, through baseball season, and I just can't stop. So yeah, I'd have to chill out to limit my intake.
There's a gas station right outside of our neighborhood. Packasack,
Yeah.
I think it's called. They have a very large selection of sunflower seeds and a couple different brands. I when I was umpiring a lot, I used to get like the thin tube of seeds because that fit best in like a pocket where I could
Yeah.
have it in and out
Yeah.
real quick in between innings. And then it was the chili lime ones on in those packs that were hard to beat. The seeds itself weren't like great quality, like they would splinter real bad instead of just popping open. But the convenience of having that thin bag to go in and out of the pocket was really great.
Chinook also has they have a Parmesan and pepper. And I remember now their ranch, they have a jalapeno ranch. So
Nice.
yeah, they're solid. Yeah.
Smokehouse barbecue, hatch chili, cinnamon toast, lemon pepper, jalapeno ranch, Parmesan pepper, original. Let's look at
And I talked about the MSG thing because that's how I found them. I was Googling, why does my nose itch? And aside from like, nose cancer and whatever else the internet said I had, the
Some other
MSG thing
allergy.
came up. So then I was looking for like what sunflower seeds don't have that. And I ran across these, but I've seen them a lot on Instagram and stuff. I mean, lots of MLB players kind of, at the fence at spring training, doing the little spot like, hey, I love these. And can I have some more to take to my teammates and stuff like that? So,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm just curious because
your quote made me think of, I've started listening to Kent Hance's podcast, The Best Storyteller in Texas. Pretty interesting. Sometimes a little political, but like whatever.
Well, that's his background.
Yeah, but like the stories are great. And he starts everyone with like a saying of the day. And the last one that I listened to, I think it was the newest one, was doing nothing is hard because you never know when you're finished. And he didn't give a credit. I think it's like a Leslie Nielsen kind of quote, but that's kind of been something I've been thinking about. Not that I sit around and do nothing a lot, but I like to accomplish things. And so trying to keep myself focused on doing things like that, like in my home, like, hey, I need to work on the house rather than watching TV or whatever, has been a thing for me. That's what I learned.
Well, yeah. Well, also like, as somebody that likes to go fishing, like that is doing nothing. I mean, you're active in some way, but you're not really accomplishing much besides like clearing space for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate that. So I was bringing the sunflower seeds just because. So now my youngest son, our middle child, is now old enough to play Little League and like the very basic level, like peewee, barely what you would consider baseball. So we have two boys playing baseball this spring. I'm not coaching. I'm not on the board. I'm not doing anything besides being a dad. I'm looking forward to. Both boys, without talking to each other about it, both picked the same number to wear. I was like, that's fantastic. Like, because we usually get like a hat of the team and then have his numbers stitched on the side.
Yeah.
So the youngest one, because it's just a hat draw, their team is already put together. He's going to be a cricket this year. It's peewee cricket.
Nice.
But they're both going to wear number 23 this year. And I was like, why? And they both couldn't really articulate it, but were like, you know what? Like their younger sister's birthday is on the 23rd. Like, so it's February 23rd of 2023. It's like, it's her number. So you're both wearing it for her. Fantastic.
Well, that's cool.
And that's the story we're going to go with. But yeah, so we don't know the older team yet, but yeah, we'll have a new hat. I don't know if I'll get a Crickets hat, but we'll see.
Is it the old school Crickets logo? Like the Lubbock Crickets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice.
So probably will because of that. And then just because of just a quick Google search, I like to Facebook stalk everybody. The coach is from my Googling skills, is the captain of the Lubbock Cooper Police Department or police. I would assume it's
the school
department.
The district police. Yeah, it's a police department. Yeah.
Yeah. Coach Captain Alderson. So
okay.
Anyways, the more you know. So yeah, that'll do it for us. 23 Personnel Podcast. Thank you, Keith, for filling in, talking Red Raider baseball. Season doesn't tip off. First pitch Friday. We also took down Arizona State on the hardwood 111 to 106 and double overtime. Yeah, super excited for baseball season, man. That's just, I can't wait. For Keith, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at FunSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.
Alrighty. We are out.
man.